Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all very much for coming on to the, I think this is the 6th Umbraco Virtual meetup we've had now. Quick raise of hands for those I can see in the video. Who hasn't attended any of the virtual meetups before? Cool. Okay. Okay. It's a good number. So we have a number of different things on the agenda tonight. Let's bring it up some stuff. So we're going to start off with Callum talking about his super friendly projects. Then we're going to have Emmanuel talking about Hardcore and some cool things about that. And then Soren's going to be bringing in tabs and groups in Umbraco 8 doc types. And then I was thinking what we could maybe do is, if we are up to it, maybe just talk about either 2019 in review or ideas about the future. It could just be an open discussion. There's no sort of set real plan after that. Usually when we start these, I like to sort of go through every person who's in the meetup, essentially give yourselves 30 seconds. So just give yourselves a quick introduction to who you are, what you do if you want to, just so you all get to know each other a little bit better. Obviously, we're all around the world at the moment, so there's no reason why we can't become friends, regardless of where we are. So I suppose I'll begin. My name is Mike Macy. I'm an Umbraco MVP. Umbraco Master. I run the virtual meetup, obviously. I do the Umbraco accessibility team stuff as well, and general contributions to Umbraco and the community, and enjoy it. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and I can't see myself stopping. I will pick Seb to introduce himself next.
Hello, I'm Sebastian. I work at HQ, Umbraco HQ, and for those of you who don't know me, I do stuff with pull requests and issues that are incoming. And it wouldn't be an Umbraco Virtual if I didn't pick a nice homebrew, well, not homebrew, well-crafted beer. This one is from Denmark in collaboration with Gothenburg Brewery. Very nice oatmeal India Pale Ale. Lovely. Cheers. Next, I see Søren is next to me on the.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Søren. Live in Odense in Denmark and working for Ekreo, an agency working in pretty close collaboration with HQ on our solutions. And yeah, it's fun work, and we do a lot of fun stuff for our clients. So let's go to Gareth.
Hello, I'm Gareth. I'm development manager at Carbon 6 Digital. I've been there a couple of months now. Before I worked at J-Wing, where I've been working on Umbraco for a long time. I just thought I'd join you today. Hello. And I'm going to pick London Massive.
Oh, go on, Lottie.
Hello, I'm Lottie. I'm obviously in London. One of the co-organisers of the London meetups, Umbraco MVP, member of the packages team, and to my right is Callum.
I'm Callum. I think Lottie actually said most of the stuff because we're kind of the same. Umbraco MVP. I do Umbra Coffee every Friday. Work for myself. Travel around the world doing Umbraco stuff. Yeah.
I do all of that, but my name is Ravi.
You're not the host of Umbra Coffee.
And I'm not the host of Umbra Coffee.
Who's next?
Yep, next.
Should we choose Sven?
Oh, thanks, Lottie. Sven from Belgium, working at a little company called Embrace for 4 years now, probably. Yeah, something like 4 years. We do mainly Umbraco stuff. And some people know me as a chocolate man on Umbraco conferences. I pass it on to Owen.
Hi, I'm Owen, based in Edinburgh for a company called Lewis. I'm an Umbraco MVP, certified master, been around the community for I think about 3 years now, maybe a bit longer, and helped start up the Edinburgh meetups. That's pretty much me. I'll go to Dean.
Hi, I'm Dean Lee. I run a small agency called Whole Thing. We moved a few years ago from our own content management system, classic ASP, to those of you that used to use it. We still love it, but to Umbraco. And I also run Colchester Digital Meetup, and I live just outside Colchester, in between a few villages, Kirby-le-Soken, Frinton, Walton-on-the-Naze, sort of hidden parts of Essex. Yeah, I've been to a few of these virtual meetups, and they're all really useful. So thanks for running it, Mike.
Do you want to pick someone to introduce themselves next?
I don't know who's left now. Rachel Breeze.
Hiya, I'm Rachel. I work for Sigma, live in Macclesfield, and I'm part of the Umbraco accessibility team. Me, I think. Is there anyone else? Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom. Can you hear me okay? Yep. It's really weird. I'm not hearing myself in my headphones. So I work as of August for a fund manager in Edinburgh called Baillie Gifford. Before that, I worked in agencies, had 4 wonderfully up and down months working full time with Umbraco 8. We've just had Gabriel in, done a week of training for about 8 or 9 of us. There's, oh God, it's difficult to count. There's about 5 of us in the team, plus 3 in Poland. We've got a few websites, including the Baillie Gifford main website and Umbraco 7, and we've got a few projects upcoming, which unfortunately I can't really talk about because of the type of business that we work in. I think I would pick Matt next to introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Matt Brailsford. I run a small digital agency called Outfield Digital along with my wife. We do Umbraco-based stuff. We're also the team now behind T-Commerce and Vendor moving forwards, as well as a new product for V8, which is in the e-commerce space. MVP, serial package developer, so any things like nested content, fluidity, and those things are from me, and I think that's it. So Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Werner. I'm in the Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania, United States. Just a .NET developer. I am Umbraco certified master. Just do a lot of .NET work for some agencies in the surrounding area, and I'm happy to be here. I think, is it Ulrich who's left?
Sure. Sorry for the missing picture. I'm just trying to locate a USB cable. My laptop is docked, but I'm monitor with a built-in camera. I'll find the cable in a few minutes. I'm located in Denmark, just a few kilometers outside Odense, close to Søren actually. Have a company. If you Søren switched a couple of letters in their company name, my company is called eCore. But it's just me, and I for the last 10 years I've been a freelancer, doing nothing but Umbraco. Yeah, I travel a lot. At the moment I work in Copenhagen, but live on Fyn. So yeah, for the last 16 months I have been with the same client full time. So still a freelancer, but they're trying to convince me to convert to a permanent position. But it's a lot to give up to jump on board. So yeah, I don't think there's anybody left.
I think there's M. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry about
everybody
that.
Guy from the Southern Hemisphere. Hey, I'm Emmanuel. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. Well, the time is right now 5:16 a.m. And I hope I don't go to sleep. I'm awed by seeing all the faces here. I've been maybe stalking some of you on Twitter and stuff like that. And it's an honor to be here, and I hope I can make it for some of these virtual meetups. That's me.
Cool. And there's Owen. Have you introduced yet? Yeah, I think, is that everyone?
Yeah, I've done mine.
That was everyone. Yep.
Cool. Nice one. Right. Well, if that's the introductions, we are now all officially friends. That's how it works in Umbraco. Know a name, you're friends. So, Callum, I don't know if you would like to kick off your super friendly projects. I'm really curious to see all of the 6 things or 4+2 dependencies.
Okay, so I'll start by. I don't think we've got anyone here that's been to a London meetup recently except Ravi. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. So.
No. That I showed.
Lots of fresh minds.
I showed one of these things at the London meetup in November, and Lottie wasn't there. So this is new for everyone, which is cool. I decided there was a few things I didn't really like when I was working with Umbraco, and the way I was doing things for some of my clients meant that some things maybe needed to be tweaked and changed. The 4 things I'm going to speak about are the image cropper in the CMS, nested content in the CMS, a way of handling sitemap XML files in multi-site situations, and also robots.txt files in multi-site situations. I know that Lottie has worked hard with Lee and Emma and Mike to do robots.txt editor, and I love that package. It's lovely. This is an alternative approach, but they also can work together quite nicely, which is cool. I think I will start with the image cropper. Oh, I need to share my screen, don't I? How do I do that? That one. Yes, it is. Can people see Umbraco?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we can all see it.
Lovely. So, as part, I was talking with a few people on Twitter about how we find the image cropper just really painful and horrible to work with. The reason being, when you're working in code, and if I come over to say my Visual Studio solution, if you're working in code, to actually access like crops, can I just create a particle or something? You have to do it by referring to a crop alias with a magic string, or you have to input the size. So like, in fact, I'll fire up the GitHub page. So yeah, you have to do things like get crop URL and pass in a width and a height, and it gets a little bit messy when you've got that all over your code base. If you want to update it and change where you are, change what like a crop size is, you have to do it all over your solution. It's not very nice. The way that the image cropper is configured in the CMS by default is, where's it gone? Image cropper is you have to define an alias and the width and the height, and then that image cropper is what's used on your media to actually do a crop. But so to reference that, you then have to reference it by name, and it's a bit messy. So a few of us were discussing on Twitter, is there a nice way of achieving this, but actually having a way of referencing those crops in code? And so I went away and I kind of turned the problem on its head and said, well, why don't we instead build the image crop definitions from code? So, but also keep the flexibility that allows us to go in here and edit and add a crop. So I've created the super image cropper. And the idea is you can define a class that has your crop definitions in it, and from there you can pick like a crop that should run. In this case, I have in my project defined this, and I'll zoom that in a bit. So we've got an enum, which is in C# in our project, which gets compiled, and then I can refer to that in the configuration of my, oh, hang on. Wait a sec, I've just realized. You couldn't see my Visual Studio, could you?
Oh, we can only see your browser.
All right, one sec. That should do, right? Okay, are we back?
Yes.
And we can see Visual Studio.
Yes.
Hey, cool. So here's here's an enum I've defined in my project, and I've got a list of global crops, and this way I can actually refer to them, to these crop aliases in code in a strongly typed way, which is nice. So I can say global crops.header and pass that directly in to my get crop URL method. So here, which is the example from the documentation, image.getCropURL, imagecrops.hero will do everything that you could have done before with the getCropURL method, and in a really nice, strongly typed way, which is really nice. So I can then define absolutely everything and how that works there. But what's even better is I can then edit these crops and the focal point for each of these crops. So I, in my super image cropper configuration, have chosen this image cropper should use that class. And then on my media type, I've swapped it out. So header and footer, which is defined there, 1200 pixels, 500, 250, 250, is the exact same thing that's configured here. And we can go a bit further and we can start to, ooh, what's happened? We can start to mix the two setups. So I can still go in here and define my custom crop, 100, 100, add that, save it, and my media item, with a bit of luck, should have both. So we've got my custom crop now and the ones that are defined in my code. So you can actually mix the two different approaches. You can swap this directly in and out for the existing cropper, so it shouldn't really interfere in any way, and it just works really nicely in your project. I said that I was going to demo no less than 6 packages here, and that is true because my package for this image cropper is Super Image Cropper, but I've actually introduced this idea of exposing all of the stuff that it uses in core, in its core, as a separate package. So I've got this our.umbraco.extensions.imagecropper. This follows on from Microsoft's own convention of having like Microsoft.extensions.something for extensions. So all of the strongly typed way of accessing crop URLs is its own package. So that enum thing where you can decorate your enum with a crop attribute and say this value is this crop. That's all in a separate package. So it's using this Umbraco extensions image cropper. And then if you wanted to have your actual image cropper editor use that, you can install the Super Image Cropper, which installs my extensions package as well. I've effectively implemented every single crop URL method that you'd need in core, and this works all the way from v8.0 all the way up to latest. In fact, it probably would also work on v7 because there's nothing that's really changed, which is pretty cool. It's not doing anything special really, other than with reflection going and getting that attribute and saying what's the value, what's the crop I should be doing, and populating the properties to actually call Umbraco's own crop URL method. So kind of, yeah, relatively simple, but keeps your code a lot cleaner and makes working with the project nicer. Does anyone have any questions about that before I move on?
Have you tested performance doing it your way with reflection versus doing it manually?
Yeah, so it's caching the result of that. It's caching the result of the reflection. So actually, it will be relatively performant after that first hit. I guess I could profile it. It's probably going to be a tight.
If you're caching it, it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Well done.
But also because it's not like I'm literally searching over the entire solution to go and find the enum. You're either passing it in by name, or for the image cropper, super image cropper, we've actually already got the name saved, the assembly name saved. So it's really easy to just look it up and find the different crop attributes. Yeah. Any other questions?
How is the cropper finding the enum then? How do you tell it the list of enums?
Yeah, one sec. So the lookup of the enums again is done by reflection. So in here, what this is doing is it's going over and checking to see what what enums are available, and they have a crop attribute on them. So it's gone and found my 2. That could also probably be cached. I haven't cached it because it's just a pre-value. I don't know if it's necessary, but yeah, also via reflection.
You could try registering them like you would with the dependency injector, and then because it's compile time, you could compile and cache all of your crops at that point.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. I guess there's like a balance between I just implement my enum and it's there and I can start using it straight away, versus this super image cropper then having to say, oh, register these with super image cropper as well. I don't know really. It's,
I guess it's just the request to look through all of the enums.
Yeah, definitely. This isn't released yet. This is something I've been playing with. There's a couple of issues that I've come up against where some things are hard-coded in core to expect the core image cropper property editor alias, and I've had to swap some of those things out, and it's getting a little bit more complicated. But it's almost there. It's almost there. Cool. I'll show you something else then. So this is my next package, the third of 6 that I'm going to show, which is something I've called super nested content, following along the same theme. Now, the way I work with nested content varies in my site, and I might have something like building up a carousel, in which case having them rendering in a list is really nice. But something else I've started using nested content for is the ability, like my site settings. So I will have, on the root node of my website, I'll have an option to add settings, and then be able to say, add like sitemap settings or SEO settings, and you can then globally control those there. And it means it's just one single property, one single place that I can go and access settings. So I can go find the page, and in Models Builder, .settings. And then I have an extension method called getElement, where I can pass it a model, and it will go and find that by type. But I thought I would make the UI a little bit nicer for some editors. And so I have got my super nested content, which here allows me to have things like tabs over this. Ooh. And so it's just maybe slightly more, I don't know, familiar to users. This would be a setting that I can add, remove, do whatever I want to do with. Something I'm working on implementing right now as well is the ability to implement finer rules about, oh, this nested content item type can only appear once, or you're allowed multiple ones of this type. So in this same way, my settings control would be, you've added Google Analytics as a setting. You can't add a second Google Analytics setting because you're only going to have one per site. But yeah, it just creates a slightly nicer way of interacting with nested content. Yeah, and so this is just nested content with the same, with a different UI. Instead of it being in a list, it's just rendering them with some CSS in this way. Everything that you could do before with nested content can be done here. It's not really doing anything too fancy.
Are you able to do things where you could like combine the two, so you have certain nested content items display in that list and other ones display in a tab? Well, I suppose that probably gets into the realms of a nested content inside a nested content.
Yeah, I like the idea that actually on the, let me reshare the screen, on the configuration of that data type, you could say something like, where's it gone? Settings, data types, super nested content. Yeah, I'm toying with the idea that you could have somewhere, yeah, enable tabs, but that could be like a layout picker or something. The idea that you could say, yeah, I want this to be tabs, I want this to be nested, I want this to be, I don't know, some custom UI, some custom layout that you provide it with. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
No, yes. This one's on. This one's also. It's on GitHub, but I've not released it yet. Still playing with it, but I think that I've got. I built this for a use case that I have where I'm managing settings. So there's probably a couple of different ways that yeah, we can tackle that.
It's cool. I think it sort of showcases how flexible Umbraco is in terms of if you want to change things that already exist as well, you can.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, if there's no more questions, I will move on to talking about my 4th, 5th, and 6th Umbraco package. Now, these are actually released, and you can use them. I have never seen anybody implement sitemaps or robots.txt files well in Umbraco websites. That's quite a sweeping statement.
How dare you?
But I've just never seen it work properly. Now, the reasons for this are, if you've got a physical robots.txt file in your Umbraco installation, if you've got multiple websites, generally the same robots.txt file gets rendered for every single one of those domains.
And that's just their problem.
Yeah, right. So I've seen people do that, and that's kind of a bit painful. So having the physical file there makes it difficult to do multiple websites. The same problem applies to sitemaps. So if you're going to generate a physical XML file and have that there, well then, yeah, that's great, but you can't share it across sites. The other approach I've seen is people having like a text field somewhere in their site where they allow people to put whatever they want in there, and they maybe have some kind of HTTP handler or something that says render for robots.txt this bit of text someone's put in there. But it means people and editors have the ability to go in there and make a mistake and really screw up something quite critical on their site, like the SEO, which is also a problem.
Yes.
Then for sitemaps, Seb has a fantastic solution, which is his Cultive sitemap package.
Still in use in places.
Yeah, it's absolutely still a very, very good solution. And the way that works is having an alt template on your site. So you could go /sitemap, and then you get an XML sitemap back. But the problem with that is, because it's an alt template, you can actually do it on any single URL in the site. So you could go to like about us / some child page / sitemap, and it would render the sitemap, which means you can have multiple URLs for your sitemap. And that's
which Google doesn't seem to have a massive problem with.
No,
because it doesn't care.
No, but so it's just a bit strange. And then to go even further, we lost the internet.
No, we've just got into soft focus.
Gone fuzzy.
You're just out of focus, yeah.
Yeah. And then to go even further, with Seb's package, the old template thing works great, but it doesn't mean that I've got like a sitemap.xml path. It's just /sitemap. I don't know, some people like to reserve /sitemap for maybe an HTML sitemap with links, and others with the sitemap.xml for the XML file. So that's less than ideal. There's a handful of solutions there that don't quite tick every single box. And so I have gone about creating a couple of new solutions for doing that. Continue, yes, start kit, fine. If I share my screen. Cool. So I've created what I've called friendly robots and friendly sitemap. And the idea of these is both that you could almost install the package and be up and running with a sitemap.xml file that works multi-site and works across the board out of the box without really having to do anything. So you install the package and it works. By default, these packages are configured as part of the web config. So umbraco.robots user agent, Umbraco robots allow, disallow, and also sitemaps. So this would be a comma-separated list of your sitemap URLs, and it will generate the robots.txt path will resolve and give you a valid robots file for that. And the same goes for sitemap. So this does pretty much what Seb's package does, goes over the current website, finds to see, oh, you have, you have PageX, and it's not being excluded from the sitemap. You can then render it. I'm just creating a small demo site of that, so I can actually show you something with some real content in it. But I'll go into how it works first. So I have used something that I don't think too many people actually use in Umbraco, which is a shame, and that's the Mvc routing. So getting in and configuring what a route resolves to. If we look in here, what I'm doing is saying, hey, Umbraco, I want you to map this route, in this case, robots.txt, to a controller, which is called the robots controller. I'll zoom that in, sorry. Yeah, the robots controller and my method render robots. And this is just doing some pretty standard logic. All right, thanks. This is doing some pretty standard logic to say, hey, go and tell me from the config what is the user agent allows, disallow rules, all of that stuff, and it just builds up the sitemap exactly as you'd expect it to. And then the sitemap logic is the exact same thing. It's almost an exact clone, in fact. So this is sitemap.xml mapped to sitemap and render sitemap, separate package that goes and says, yeah, render out an XML sitemap. I've given some additional controls here. So out of the box, you could actually go and change, like, like I want to set the change frequency for this page in the sitemap, and it will pull all that through. You would add a property to your page to do that. Yeah, but it's optional. So if it doesn't have it, then and the sitemap doesn't actually require it, so it won't add it in there, and it will do all the stuff that it needs to do to generate you a sitemap. Now, a challenge I came up against on this is making sure it would work multi-site without having to bind by an ID or a specific doc type alias or something. I might have multiple sites that have, one has a home page that looks like this, and one has a home page that's got a different root doc type or something. So I have created my 6th package, which is called our Umbraco extensions routing.
Cunning. And
yeah, very, very cunning. And this is a collection of helpful bits of code for handling routing and some different behaviors that you need in Umbraco. And in this case, this is the root, get the root node by its domain handler. So this takes the request that's coming in and says, what domain is this request? And then it finds the node that it's attached to, and it treats that as the root of the website. So that's where your sitemap will be generated from. That's where your robots.txt will be generated from. It's going off calling a few things that live in Umbraco, but some stuff I've had to duplicate as well to make this possible. And bootstraps an Umbraco context, and then you're able to go and search. Effectively, you have a real context for the root of that website. So all of these robots.txt roots actually use this virtually created root. Now, if I could show that in action, hello. So I've just set up a blank Umbraco 8.5 site, and I've got my starter kit installed, and I'm going to just attach a domain, or in fact, let's do it like this: robots.txt. Why am I getting an exception there? That's nice. Can I get this bar to go away?
Did you do the correct sacrifices to the demo gods, Callum?
I believe I did. Let's just make sure I've got this all set up. Hey, okay. There's a little bug there that needs fixing. But this, because I've not done anything, I've not changed anything, has gone, okay, yeah, you've got a domain on your node. That is this robots.txt file, allow, disallow. I can go into my web config and set I want to disallow everything and refresh that, and it should, with a bit of luck, come back going, yeah, yeah, there you go. It's now a disallowed site. So you could add allowed paths, disallowed paths. And that works nice, but it's not ideal for, say, a multi-site setup, where maybe I want to be able to control allowing and disallowing this from the CMS, maybe. So here would be how I tackle that. So this, being able to say, I want to, yeah, enable and disable my robots or the sitemap, which should actually also be working. Oh, crap. The joys of working with yeah, there you go, full valid sitemap too. I want to be able to enable and disable that through the CMS. So on the home page, where is the root of my site, I'm going to add a checkbox called enable sitemap. Can't type. That Danish beer. True, false. Fine. And let's just put that up the top so we can see that working. Now this is where Umbraco 8 actually makes this hugely, hugely powerful and lots of fun and really, really nice to work with. So I've got my checkbox here when it loads.
You can edit doc types from the page. You don't have to switch between all the things.
Yes. There we go. I have my enable sitemap thing there. But to actually pull that through and have that configure my sitemap so I don't have to touch any settings here, we can do it with dependency injection. Because I've thought this use case through, my controller takes in a class robots configuration, and that is injected through the dependency injection container in Umbraco into the code, so that when it runs, by default, it's checking the app settings, but we could change it. So instead of checking the app settings, it's actually going to go and check my configuration in the CMS and see what it should render. So quick demo of what that might look like. I'm going to add a class in here, which we will call, oops, we're going to call that sitemap composer. And we're going to have to say this is needing to compose after, I really can't type. Oh, goodness. Right, let's try that again. Compose after type of our Umbraco friendly sitemap. Sitemap config composer, and in here that's an I user composer. Come on. Cool. So this is going to allow me to control once Umbraco and my sitemap package has started up and registered all of its code. Instead, we're going to say, maybe we could swap out register unique. We're going to swap out the what's it called? Models, maybe. That's it, configuration. Configuration dot no, I'm wrong. Where is it? Robots. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going mad. Sorry. And Zoom's getting in the way. Yeah, configuration dot.
You'll need a using umbraco.core statement.
Oh, hang on. No, that's why I've loaded in the wrong thing. Our Umbraco friendly sitemap.configuration.
So that full stop in front of startup by your type of might be giving you some issues too.
Oh, thank goodness we have all of you here.
It's nice to include people, Callum.
Yeah, I'd like to say I did all this on purpose, but so it's called sitemap configuration. Yay! So I'm going to register a new one of these, and in here we can do something like this, where we can actually instantiate a new instance of the sitemap configuration class, and in here do all of the logic to say return, what's it called? Enable sitemap. For now, we'll just set that to false. And we can also control here the life cycle. So we can say per request, actually, we'd like you to go and check the CMS to see if this value is there. What's it called? Or is it not register unique? There we go. Lifetime. Type lifetime dot request. So what this means is every time you go and request something from the CMS, please, every time you need this sitemap configuration, go and instantiate a new version. So then in here we could do something like Umbraco helper or something, and actually go and get our content and set it that way. But for now, I'm going to take a little shortcut, and I think I can just do current Umbraco, current Umbraco.where. No, that's not working. Oh, dear me. I have an example of this somewhere else, but I don't actually want to open the code. 1 second. Whilst I'm fixing this, does anyone have any questions?
The map Umbraco route thing that you said people don't use. Is that version 7 as well?
Yeah, it's been there, I think, even in V6. It's the Mvc routing. So this is what Umbraco actually uses to map the URLs anyway to Umbraco's own internal code.
So it basically is like a normal MVC route, but giving you the Umbraco context.
And by me providing that that route provider, it gives it the context that I choose it to have.
As in, like, where you are in the
where I am in the tree.
Okay.
So the current Umbraco context is there.
You didn't care where you were in the tree, and you just kind of wanted to do generic searching using an Umbraco helper. Does it make sense to use that, or you would? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I've got site helper. Maybe I'll just share this. It's just.
Oh, it sounds like I need to read about map Umbraco route.
Perhaps, yeah.
I'm not sure I knew it existed, by which I mean I didn't know it existed.
Okay, I'll just show a demo of what this might look like, because for the sake of time. So I have this working in another site where I've got an instance. Can I zoom that in?
Oh, this is what I'll realise it was on the official training.
It absolutely was on the official training.
Validated my master status.
Ooh, yeah, so this would be a sitemap composer I got on another site where I'm doing my register and I'm registering my sitemap configuration per request. So every time it comes in, it hits that, it instantiates a new version of sitemap configuration. I've got a bit of a helper that goes away and it gets the current node for my website. And then I'm going and getting a setting, which is a super nested content property with this get element. And it comes back and says, oh, you've got enable sitemap set to true or false, sets it there, hits my configuration, and returns that, and that will then be what's used in the controller. So yeah, you could toggle that, and the sitemap would enable and turn it off, and it wouldn't. And because it's per request, it's picked up the context that you are for the site you're running, and it will go to wherever you've set the root of that site, and then yeah, bootstrap yourself there. But that would be what that. Oh, for God's sake. that would be the kind of end result that you get, a sitemap or a 404 if there's nothing there. The final thing I'd say is if you wanted to override this and have, say, a physical file on disk, like a physical robots.txt file, such as if you wanted to use the robots.txt editor, you could. If the physical file exists, that takes precedent over whatever's configured here.
Some people like that in their build processes, don't they?
Some people like to dump a robots.txt file in for dev sites and the like. But this gives editors control, potentially, over the configuration of key features through the CMS, and it's going to generate you a standard compliant robots.txt or sitemap XML file. I'm even doing something where if I've enabled sitemap in my robots.txt generation code, I automatically add the generated sitemap and the URL for that into robots with code, so I don't have to even worry about adding sitemaps and stuff. Anyway, that's me. That's 6 packages.
You've been busy.
Yeah.
as always, as always.
Come on, Callum.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Callum.
Thank you.
Callum, can I ask a question? So there's
always
a beginner bit attached as always. So we're just in the process of converting a multi-language site that it's currently 3 separate websites in our old CMS, English, Chinese and Japanese, with subdomains for the URLs, so just cn dot and jp dot. We have built, so we've got a little bit of experience with a multi-node site, or I don't know what you call it, what the correct expression is, multiple sites in one Umbraco installation. Thanks to Sebastian's lovely cultive sitemap, we've managed to get that working. So if in version 8 now, if we make this multi-language, first of all, I presume we can still use, with the culture and host names, we could still use subdomains for the multi-language.
Exactly. So because this would work really nicely with multilingual and having a multilingual sitemap, or even a robots.txt specific to a language variant, because when you map a host name in Umbraco, you provide it with a culture. So you would say my cn.domain.com is the Chinese culture, and therefore when a request comes in and says, hey, I need to go and find the root of this website, it's going to still look it up and match that host name and the culture. And the context that you'll get back will be for that culture. So it's going to go and get values, property values for all of those, that culture as well.
Yes, so you're ahead of me. That's what I was wondering. So we'll be able to serve a Chinese and Japanese sitemap,
yeah,
mapped to the correct domain, yes, and the correct language. Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'll be very pleased. When's this being released? We might need it next week.
These are released. They're on NuGet, GitHub. Actually, I was going to put them on the Umbraco package repository. They're not up there yet, but they were out yesterday. Both of these.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. I'll try, Callum, if you Slack or put them in chat, the links to the various things, I'll put them in the description to the video when this goes up on
Fantastic.
YouTube. So be all there for reference.
Cool.
Cool. All right, well, thank you very much again, Callum. And I suppose that brings on to our next speaker, which is Emmanuel, who's going to be teaching us about what we can learn as what a content service has to offer in the form of Umbraco Hardcore, their headless CMS solution. Quite excited to see what we got here. And obviously, look at those slides. Look at that first slide. It's lovely. So yes, Manuel, take it away.
Yeah, let me get my screens in order. I lost something, I think. All right.
If anybody else has any other like links or anything they'd like to add into the show notes, as it were, send them over again, either in Slack on the chat in Zoom, and I'll get them all added in when this goes up. Just sorry, Manuel, take it away.
Cool. So we've done our introductions, and thank you for letting me on here. Are you ready? Are you ready to lose your hearts and heads with hardcore? Now, this presentation is something which I did for DDD Melbourne sometime back. It was a bit vendor agnostic, but I've tuned it for Umbraco Hardcore, and it's, I've seen most of you are way up there in Umbraco, so it's more of a primer for a client or a new dev, just to let them know what's there with Hardcore and how you could go about it. 26 billion IoT devices will be connected to the internet this year. Now, I didn't make that number up, and it came straight out of a Gartner report. 26 billion IoT devices. How do I serve this content? How do I serve content to these devices? Well, this is a question I got from Lord Lamington a few months back. Lord Lamington has got grand plans. He wants to have monopoly on all Lamingtons sold here in Australia and New Zealand. He wants to conquer the world with his Lamingtons. I hope anybody outside Australia have had Lamingtons. They're just great. And if you have not, next time on your visit to Australia, you should have one. So
I would say I've never seen them, but they look absolutely delicious.
you should come over here and get them, and hopefully we'll see more of Lord Lamington as well. So what does Lord Lamington do? He looks for the best digital agency in Australia and finds Luminary. I work at Luminary, and I work with clients like Melbourne Airport, Schneider Electric, and Save the Children. We also work with the Cancer Council and UNICEF. Enough said. Lord Lamington wants to talk to me. I'm Emmanuel Tissera. I've got 15 years of content management experience with 10 years working on Umbraco. Also, I've been a bit headless for the last few years, working with high performance cloud-based APIs. But coming back to Lord Lamington's questions, he wanted to know how to serve content to a smart fridge, a smart watch, a home assistant like Google Mini or Alexa, or to a display screen in the lobby. Did I also mention he wanted one source of truth for all of this? I think I heard him mumbling something about omnichannel, but that's a topic for another day. Then Lord Lamington drops this bombshell. My website runs on CMS, WordPress to be exact. How can I reuse that content? He looks at me. It's time to get a bit technical and give Lord Lamington a lesson in history. Now, most of you guys would know what I'm talking about, but Lord Lamington had no clue. Once upon a time, there was a developer and his trusty notepad. He coded HTML and shipped it directly to the server, and to the live server, that is. But let's fast forward to a time in the not so distant past. We arrive in a time where traditional CMSs are king. You need to self-manage the infrastructure, which is typically a database and a web server. The CMS is tightly coupled together with the back office, custom code, and front-end templates, all sitting on a single web server. It's a bit cumbersome, like our old mate here. It's simply bulky and a lot of work. The output from the traditional CMS is HTML. Upgrades and maintenance to a traditional CMS is time consuming. The worst part is I need to take my public facing website offline in order to do it. So then we move to an era of the decoupled CMS, where they try to solve this problem. Again, the infrastructure, web server, and database are self-managed. But the front-end public-facing website and the back office are placed on different instances. This decoupling solves the problem of upgrades, maintenance, and security. So we've got this leaner robot here, but he's still got some wires attached to the back office, as the front end still needs to be in sync. Again, as with the traditional CMS, the output is HTML. Then came the headless CMS, where you could retrieve content via an API. With Umbraco, we would have rolled our own API or used a plugin such as Headrest. This meant that the CMS no longer dictated how the front end should function. You could take your head or your content and go wherever you want, be it a mobile application, a smartwatch, a voice assistant, or your typical website. The output came in a structured format, usually as JSON data, which could be consumed by any client. Finally, we come to content as a service. This is essentially a headless CMS, which is cloud-based. You as a consumer don't need to worry about infrastructure, web server, or the database for the CMS back office or for the delivery API. All that is managed for you by the vendor. That's where Umbraco Hardcore comes in. The vendor, that is Umbraco HQ, manages everything, and you need to just focus on creating content and consuming it. Lord Lamington is persistent though. So he asks again, why can't I use my traditional CMS? First of all, you need structured content for all your devices like the fridge or the smartwatch. HTML is not going to cut it. Even for your website, if you build a single page application, you would be better off retrieving structured content and displaying it. Some devices you target, like the Google Mini, have no UI. You need to think about that. Finally, for all of this to work, you need a high-speed, high-performance, cloud-based API. So the answer is obvious. We need to use content as service. Umbraco HQ describes Hardcore as a SaaS offering. But I beg to differ and would like to classify Umbraco Hardcore as content as a service, or CaaS. CaaS is still a subgroup within the SaaS approach. Why do developers love Umbraco Hardcore? Now, the number one reason in my mind is the dynamic and versatile API available to retrieve content. Umbraco Hardcore has a RESTful API in place, and GraphQL is on the roadmap. What this means is that as soon as you create a content model and populate it, you can retrieve content from an API without any further coding. You also get to use your favorite platform and tech stack to deliver content to end users. With Hardcore, you're not chained anymore to your Windows machine for development. You can now code even on a Linux or a Mac. Your chosen technology could be .NET, JavaScript, PHP, or any other programming language you're familiar with. There are also libraries for some languages, and I will touch on that later on. Code simplicity. The code base is simplified because you and your team are using the technology you are comfortable with. With Umbraco Hardcore, you don't have to deal with content creation, just the delivery. As much as developers love Umbraco Hardcore, management also loves it. Unlike a traditional CMS, there are no upgrades or maintenance. That's something Umbraco HQ will take care of. Operating costs are low since you don't specifically pay for any infrastructure and only pay for what you consume. With Umbraco Hardcore, you can start off with 39 euros a month for a mini plan and work your way up from there. If your consumption and needs go up, you can easily scale up to get the performance levels you're looking at. For example, a mini plan allows you to transfer 50 gigs of data, but if your consumption goes up, you can switch to a starter plan, which gives you 600 gigs of data transfer. So your CapEx is kept to a minimum when starting out. Next up, securing the back office is taken care of by Umbraco HQ. They're able to throw more resources at making sure security is never compromised. Critical security patches will be applied much faster than we would be able to do it on our own. Finally, management and Lord Lamington, of course, love the fact that Umbraco Hardcore reduces time to market. Lord Lamington wants to conquer the world with his Lamingtons. He wants to go beyond Australia and New Zealand. He claps his hands when he hears that Umbraco Hardcore will allow him to take over the world faster than he ever thought. So his next question is, how do I reduce my time to conquer the world? I mean, reduce my time to market. So before Umbraco Hardcore, delivering content was usually a very waterfall-like process. The last thing you do in a project is scramble to gather content and test it on the production system. You cross your fingers and hope it goes well. But when it comes to Umbraco Hardcore, as soon as your wireframes and information architecture is locked down, you are able to start creating content models and gathering content. This allows you to drastically cut down time to market and get your Lamingtons, I mean content, in front of your customers. But in order to achieve this agility, there needs to be a mind shift. You need to move away from thinking of one large monolithic system which does everything. You need to think in terms of microservices. The heart of your system, pun intended, should be Umbraco Hardcore. E-commerce, forms, booking engines, and CRM integrations should be like the arms and legs attached to this body. At Luminary, we've been working with content as a service for a few years now, and a few things make Umbraco Hardcore unique. Other CaaS vendors dropped their old back office and went in for something totally different. But Umbraco Hardcore has stayed true to its roots by embracing the familiar Umbraco back office. Content editors and developers feel right at home when they start out. Other CaaS vendors move to a flat structure to manage content, but Umbraco decided to stay on with its tree structure. This is very advantageous when using CaaS to drive both your website and other channels. It allows for easy routing and URL structures when the need arises. Umbraco Hardcore also comes with other features out of the box from day one, such as content management API, webhooks, an API browser, and image manipulation service on the CDN, and multi-language support. Umbraco also has a public roadmap where you can read more about these features and more to come. I am in developer heaven just by talking about all these cool features. But Lord Lamington was still not impressed. His question, so how do I serve content to a fridge or a smartwatch? Pretty easy, I say. It's time to show Lord Lamington the power and speed of Umbraco Hardcore. I'm not brave as Callum, so I've got a video which should go through. So this is on Umbraco Hardcore. I'm just creating a document type for a product. And just add a title there. We use our the familiar property editors. It's a text string, make it mandatory, and we'll also add a description, a price, a description, and an image. And again, the image is using the usual media picker. So it's everything from a developer point of view to a content editor is the same familiar Umbraco 8 back office. And now if you go and create content, we've saved that document type. I'm creating a classic Lamington, giving it a price, description, and picking up an image. So for content editor, this is back to the same thing, and I save and publish. And there's the API browser within the settings. I'm just trying to find all content types of a product, and over here I can see my 3 products which I've added here. And I can do that with a just a URL using a GET request, or you can see it better here in Postman. So the website, it could be on a tablet or your desktop or a mobile, the usual way you would deliver content, or it could be on a display screen in the street. That's a bit ambitious, but in reality, this is something I've got working, and you might see it working behind me. Sure, it's so. And actually, this is something which is driven by Raspberry Pi, which is ideal as a display screen in a shop or a lobby. All of this is done with a simple JavaScript GET request. You can see an Ajax call going out there, and it's just about getting that content and putting it there. So the content is public. And another feature which I forgot to mention was, yes, Umbraco Hardcore also has secure content, where you could lock down who has access to your content. But if it's your public website, there's no problem in having this a simple JavaScript request to get your content. So what does Umbraco Hardcore run under the hood to make this possible? So it runs on Umbraco Cloud, which is hosted in Azure West Europe region. That's for us who are in Australia, that's pretty important to know where our data is being stored. Media is stored on Azure Blob Storage, and it uses Cloudflare CDN for content and media delivery. The Umbraco back office is Umbraco 8, excluding the packages. Umbraco Hardcore right now has 2 client libraries which you can use. They're open source for community input. If your fridge runs on some other platform other than .NET Core or Node.js, as long as it could make an HTTP request, you can use that content from Umbraco Hardcore. In a nutshell, what I want you to take away is Hardcore means happy marketers who will reduce their time to market, happy editors who create content early on in a familiar interface, and happy developers who get to use the best and latest tech, which is not dictated by the CMS. So if this has inspired you, I recommend going and trying out the 14-day trial subscription. And there are some of the samples created by HQ, which is available on GitHub. Lord Lamington was pretty happy. So happy that he promised to send some virtual Lamingtons for this meetup. I'll let you know when we get those. But if you have any questions.
That's really cool. It's nice. I've been looking at the hardcore stuff sort of on and off, and it's really cool to see again almost real, non-real use cases for it. I'm also really curious about what a Lamington tastes like. Can you describe in 5 words or less. A lamington.
I can describe what it is. It is basically sponge cake in chocolate sauce with desiccated coconut. And if you get a really good lamington, you're just going to love it. And yeah, so hopefully Lord Lamington will have a chance over there as well, taking over the world.
If I can find a recipe for lamingtons, I'll chuck it into the video description as well.
It's supposed to be apparently one of the governors here, a governor of Queensland, made it by mistake, yeah, that's where it came from.
Nice. Any other questions? Cool. Right. Well, thank you very much, Manuel. That was really interesting. Really cool. Right. So next up, Soren's going to be treating us to how we can, introduce tabs and groups into Umbraco 8 doc types. If you missed doc types from V8, but like the group separation in V8, with a few hacks, apparently he can solve all our problems. So, Soren, if you'd be so kind, take it away.
Thank you. So, tabs versus groups, and this is the big discussion in our industry. Usually it's tabs versus spaces, but we got our own now. So for those of you who haven't worked with V7, I think from the faces that I know are on today, most probably have. Tabs were the thing that's used to structure document types before. And with the coming of V8, they were switched out for property groups instead, and we have listed all properties on a page in the first and only view. This has both pros and cons. I'll try to go through them. First of all, the change spawned a huge discussion thread on our, which really shows why this is probably a quite delicate topic. So the pros for tabs is that, to me at least, they give an easy overview of the content structure on your site. You can easily see which parts of the page you can edit. You also get increased focus on the individual parts of the content. As you can see in the background, there's some page settings, some hero settings, navigation, etc. You don't really get those with groups. And first of all, the most important pro on this is that this is just what we're used to seeing, and change is hard. So the cons for tabs is that most tabs probably should be content apps anyway. The thing about content apps is that they can't edit content, so it shouldn't be content apps anyway. So most of the things that I put into tabs that I would really like was content apps is things that I need from the content anyway. So it has to be content for my use. So also the new split view in V8 probably doesn't work very well with tabs, at least not if you have a lot of them. So that's another reason why groups probably was preferred. So for the group pros, they're very simple to navigate, especially for simple doc types with not that many properties. You get a quick and easy overview of your page, and you can when editing, you can just fail, scroll, and save, and then you're done with your work. You don't have to click through a lot of tabs. And you get a visible separation between properties that are not entirely familiar. On this background, you can see that there's page settings and a hero setting, and this is typically something that I would put on the same tab. So I like the separation here. For the cons, they can be very hard to navigate, especially if you have a complex document type, or if you're working with dynamic height editors like the grid or nested content if it's a huge list, and other types of editors where the height of the editor varies. So you don't really know where the next property is if you're trying to find a property that isn't on the top of the list. So, and you don't need to see all the properties at all times. In this example in the background, there's some SEO settings and navigation settings, and most of the times you don't need them anymore after you've set them once, so there's no need to show them to the editor when editing content. So on that discussion, it went on for a while and still does. So Sebastian released this package called Qualitative Tabify, which basically takes the edit view in Umbraco and switches it out with the new one where the tabs are re-enabled. It looks like this. It has been through a few iterations on the design, but this is the latest. At first, when it came out, I was still pretty confident that groups were going to show their worth. But and besides that, I wasn't really sure on the how do you say, on the usability in switching out such a core part of Umbraco that the editor view is. So I was very reluctant to use this editor, even though that for some little part of me missed the tabs. So I also made a feature request because I really liked the grouping of properties. Unfortunately, Sebastian didn't pick up, but he encouraged me to do my own. So that's probably what I've been doing the most. So after we built our first 3 or 4 solutions on Umbraco 8, the group started itching, and we found that we were missing the tabs, mostly because the bigger document types were hard to navigate. So I got Tabify into our baseline, and we've been using it since. As you can see on this screenshot, I've made some CSS changes. And that is because I also got a way to keep my groups, which is also in the top headline. So as we can see here, the tab view is now fixed to the frame of the page and fills the entire space. And that is just to make the groups stand out for themselves. For the groups, I remember the package I used earlier called a CM Separator, made by Rasmus Fjord. And the description even says that this package can be used to kill off some of those tabs with 1 or 2 properties. And that was exactly what I wanted, because I didn't want a group or a tab containing only 1 or 2 properties, because I think that's a waste of space and also makes document types too complicated to use. The package looks like this. The gray areas is the separator. It's actually just a property where you put in the title, and you can select different ways to style it. So I pulled it into Umbraco. Actually, I made my own try at doing something like this, and I got this view for my cloud baseline. As you can see, there's tabs on the top, and I have groups for each of the properties. And if any one of you have tried Tabify, then you will know that the properties are all on the same pane, the same white layer. And with my group separation property here, I make the illusion that I have several panes. Actually, they're just a box on top of the white layer that makes it look like there's a hole. So the yellow parts here are all properties of my separator. There's a few hacks involved. As you can see, this is the editor view, where I have a margin top that actually makes out for the hole in the editor pane. For the code, you can see that there's I'm going around doing some negative margins and adding some backgrounds just to make it appear like this is part of the back office, and eliminates the spacing that's already in Umbraco. So makes it look like I have my own new editor pane here. So the label and the description comes from the property name. So all I have to do is to make one data type of the separator editor, and I can use that for every time I want to make a separator. So the padding top is to push it away from the previous group of properties, and then I have add some positioning and negative margins on the background to go on. So if the separator is not the first property in the group, I add an extra element to make the bottom of the previous group. And again, it's just CSS hacks to make it look like it was part of Umbraco all along. So here's the label. Again, just doubling the basic styles from Umbraco to make it look like it's just native to Umbraco. Also got some CSS properties here. I just copied from the source of Umbraco. So with this, I get some kind of matryoshka of properties. I have tabs with groups inside, and that's exactly what I wanted. Of course, the groups is not groups; they're just made to look like that. But I can live with that. Pollutes my models a bit, but it makes editing a bit easier and makes it easier for my clients to find the properties that they need to worry about. So actually, I made it into a package, and I haven't released it yet. I'm planning to do it in the next few days. So if anyone wants to try it out, then it's going to be live for you to try. So any questions?
I want it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yes, we love it.
Lottie's got a complaint.
Yeah.
It's not actually, it's the spelling of separator.
Yeah.
You spelt it right in your description. Well done.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, it's
it was
just
the other package.
Yeah, I know. I've been going around with this. The screenshots are old, so it's I think it's fixed in the new one. But of course, I'm not native English. So.
It looks really nice. It's kind of exactly what I've wanted for a while as well. So I have a use case for this.
It's one of those things that it seems so obvious when you see it. You know, like I like the old tabs. I also like the grouping of 8, and the combination of the two seems like it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's also the thought that I came to, and I used something similar in V7 with the separator package, and it makes perfect sense to me. For this one right now, there's I don't think it works very well with nested content, but it's probably just a few CSS hacks, and then it would be fine there too. I haven't had the use case yet for those.
That's awesome.
Something I would love to see is still this does quite a lot of what I want to do, but so it's a cross between Tabify and this, perhaps, where you could have like you could have a group, maybe content as the group, and then below that I could have the rest of my well, the rest of my like groups as tabs. Yeah. So you'd have like content, and then below that SEO, Open Graph, page settings, maybe as one group.
Yeah, so yeah, that would probably be nice too.
Best of both worlds. I don't know if that fits in this package or not, or maybe it does.
And not as it's built right now, but it's probably doable to do. So
I suppose a really nice thing would be able to do is when you're creating you've got all your groups in, when you're creating your doc type, your data type, sorry. When you're creating it in the same way that as you create doc types, you can have folders. Maybe, you know, is there a package there that could be made where you can make folders for your, so rather than having just one group, you have multiple groups. So you could have a group, a folder, then you have a group, and so on. Then you have your properties for your data types. And there, again, I suppose there has to be a limit. Otherwise, you may end up having a terrible recursive tree of properties. But
yeah.
In terms of the organization of it, you know, if you've got 2 layers, that's quite a big deal.
Yeah. So with this, the organization of properties hasn't changed. It's still groups in the Umbraco context, and then I have properties for making it look like I have groups beneath them. Share a live view of this too. Just a second.
Nice.
So this is actually my baseline for cloud projects. So there's not much content inside it, and I have my tabs here, which were groups before. Have the SEO and settings here, and if I go to the document type editor, we can see that I haven't really changed anything in here. The only thing that's changed is the group separators, which has it's a composition. Just a second.
Yeah.
Where are they? Probably this one. Yeah. So I have the group separator data type here. And as you can see, I have the name of the property and the description here, and that is what is rendered. So there's no settings on the separator. Just Lottie, is this one spelled right?
You're muted if you're.
Yeah. I have a question. If you don't put one of these separators in a group, I guess it just goes, that group just goes in the main content?
It does. So for the first two tabs here, they don't have any separators. So they just work like they have always been. And it's only on this tab that I actually have separators. So this one is a separator and this one is a separator too. And
So,
also I made a change to the Tabify package. So the tabs are only visible if you have more than one tab. If not, then it's just showing as it has always been.
it's very nice.
Really nice. Amazing. Thank you very much, Lauren.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool. We've had a bit of so two things. Ulrich has something he'd like to potentially show off in terms of showing how multiple multi-language sites from Umbraco can be used to help save them headaches. And me personally, unfortunately, I have to leave you, all wonderful people. But I'm going to leave you on the capable hands of Seb. I'm very sorry to have to leave my own meetup, but again, I managed to essentially double book myself stupidly, but we're all good. I'm very sorry, and thank you very much, Seb, for taking over.
No
so yeah, I'll
problem,
leave
mate.
you in the capable hands, and Ulrich, if you'd like to take it away, and I will make my exit. So from me, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Yeah, so I just got inspired by the first session, all these small tools and stuff. And I had I'll see if I can share. I will not share my screen because it's 49-inch ultra wide, so it'll be really, really small for some of you. So I need to find the right browser. It might be this one, actually. So this is an Umbraco 7 site that I've been working on for almost a year and a half for a client. And as you can see, we have 60 markets defined in here, 60 versions with each their language. And we only have one, our main company site in this instance. So it kind of works, even though it's a pain in the ass to move things around. So then in November, we needed to start up some new projects, some smaller sites, some of them internal, some of them customer facing, some e-learning stuff, and we wanted to move on to Umbraco 8, especially to take advantage of the new way of using multi-language. But we had this kind of worry that this one, for instance, this is called Sales Toolbox. It should also be available in 60 markets with a lot of translations. Whereas this one called Site Assist, for now, it will only be one, and there might be 2 additional languages down the line. And this is the same goes for some of the other down here. And there will be, I guess there will be about 30 different web apps in this instance once we're done. And what we didn't want when we have this, I go in and just take something here. There's not much content in here yet. What we didn't want to have was a drop down here with 60 languages in sites where you only wanted to use 2 languages. So I Googled around and found some small parts of some code that could do something here and there. And there's actually a discussion going on how to have this natively handled by Umbraco, but it doesn't seem to be something that's going to happen in the near future. So I decided to take my own take on this. So what this does is that when I create a new site, the first thing I do, I go in here and set just the domains I want this to run on, just for a single language. When I have done that, I can go up here, and here I can select which languages I want to be available for this site. I can say, okay, now I have Danish and English. I want Italian and Spanish also. When I publish the site, there's an event that looks through this, goes down to the home node, looks at which domains are added, and then makes sure that the same domains are added with these additional languages. And the same goes if I move them around. So I wouldn't save them right now, but if I go in here, you can see we have Danish and English available. If I go up here and say, okay, now I want Italian and Spanish, go down and I save it. Go down here, edit this one. Now I have these 4 available here. And for editors, this is gonna save a lot of headaches because, for instance, this one, there's not much content in this. Actually, there's none. It's quite a new application, this, so there's not much content. But if you go in here and you have 2 languages to maintain, and you have to go up here and you have 60 languages, you have to go and remember which languages you need to translate stuff for this side. So that's the reason why I looked into this solution, and it actually works very well, as you can see. And the same way I added them, I could just go in and remove Italian and Spanish. Go down, save, go into and edit something, and now I back to those. So, and this there's an event you can hook into that actually are responsible for rendering out this, and I just manipulate this based on whatever is put in here. So it's kind of easy. I can show you some code, but I need to unshare first and select another screen. This one. I'm not sure whether I'm actually sharing anything right now.
You are. I can see code. Yeah.
Okay, nice. It might not be the prettiest code, but it's working. I subscribe to some events. Publishing event, obviously, when I go in and save which language I want to be active, it looks down to my property and picks out the countries, languages I have selected, and does a thing. But the interesting thing is this one, the editor model event manager, sending content model, which is located down here. I can zoom in a bit if it's too small. When actually just hooks into this content item display, found out how many are there. It should only intercept if there's more than one variant, which makes kind of sense. Goes to the list, and if there's anything that needs to be removed, it just removes it, and then sends it back and hand it over to the renderer to render the selected languages out. So it's pretty simple. So
we love it.
I'm not sure how to make a package out of this, but I could share a gist if someone wants to look at this.
Or put it on GitHub or something, and we could help package it up with you.
Definitely.
I think this has broad appeal. It's definitely a bugbear that there's so many languages that appear in the variants drop down.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, let me drop in here then and give some good news and some bad news for you, Ulrich, but because we're working on making this permissions for languages for each user as well. So it might be not necessary anymore soon.
How soon?
Well, it's in our current few sprints, so 6 to 8 weeks, as Stack Overflow guys would say.
But you're saying it's permission based?
Yes. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a bit different. So you might still need this if you have given everybody permissions to all the 60 languages. Then
yeah, but some of the sites there will be local editors. So that there the permission based approach will make sense. And then we have other sites where it's the same editors that handle it. We're using a translation manager extensively, and that will be our global editor, so to speak, that will handle all this. So yeah. But it's really good.
But this is I love this work, and I really like the editor model, sending content model thing to do stuff that you're not really supposed to do, but you can still do it. It's really great.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun thing going on.
Yep.
So.
Sebastian,
yes.
Are you making it permission based because, say, if you've got 60 languages, you've got 60 translators editing just their language? Would they still possibly need to refer to the other languages as well? Would some translators need to go backwards and forwards between multiple languages? Is that basically how you would do it?
I think so. Yeah, I am actually not entirely sure how the implementation is going to work, but yes, I hope that we can do something like that. I'll check on Monday and see what they're actually doing.
It seems like both ideas seem great.
Yep, and I really get the use case in Ulrich's case as well, which is very interesting. Yep. Cool. Any more questions for Ulrich? Just the applause. Very good. Thank you, Ulrich.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So did anybody get inspired and have any other things to talk about off the cuff? Or are you all just hungry and need to go find some food right now? after those lovely looking cakes and
Sebastian, I did notice something pop up in Slack this week where somebody was having trouble with TinyMCE, and they found that it was was Tabify. When they uninstalled Tabify, it fixed it. Is that something you're aware of?
Oh, no. I have to be honest, I haven't checked my GitHub notifications for that one for a while, so I haven't seen it, but yep, it's a good one to look into. Weird. I haven't heard it before. I've been using TinyMCE with that as well, so.
I think it's in the Slack group. When you're scrolling, I think it wasn't scrolling nicely or something.
No. Okay, interesting. I'll have a look. Thank you.
That's the question.
Yes.
Probably for you, Seb.
I think I logged into Cloud earlier today, and it told me that there was a scheduled update to 8.5.2.
Yes.
What went wrong with 8.5.2 so quickly?
Well, if you want the full story, no. So we updated.
It's being recorded, Seb. Remember that.
Yes, I know. No. So 8.5.0 clearly was there was a bit of a mistake in there, which wasn't caught in our testing somehow. And there is a few more smaller things that are currently not working, which will be fixed in 8.5.2. There's a nightly available right now, so people who are running into it right now can have an updated DLL. There's some ambiguous references, and there was one other thing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was another smaller bug. So yes, another patch release was necessary. We'll get there. It'll be stable soon.
So it's a continuation of the same bug-ish?
Yeah, well, it's still obviously got to do with Models Builder. Different type of bug this time, though. This was so one of the things was if you have both Models Builder versions in your site. So if you still have the old ZBU Models Builder or old, then where one of the extension methods had the same name and namespace as the other one, so we get an ambiguous reference. And I can't remember what the other bug was, but that was also something that definitely didn't work. So yep,
This Tuesday or next Tuesday?
this upcoming Tuesday.
Nice.
Yes.
Tack.
Velbekomme. We won't start speaking Danish now. Cool. If nobody else has anything, I would say have a good evening and thank you for attending.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks for hosting, Seb.
Thanks. No worries.
Well done.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.